Hello, screenwriters. Welcome to season two of Five Questions with a Screenwriter. And the screenwriter we have today with us is Ryan Thomas Riddle. Ryan, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the season premiere. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Hopefully, last season wasn't a cliffhanger, and we're not trying to resolve anything. We didn't shoot Jr. Picard wasn't turned into a Borg or anything, is it? Um, but
That's
but I'm very
funny.
happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Patrick. I really appreciate you asking me to do this.
Of course. All right. Let's get it started with the first question. What are three screenplays every new writer should read?
Oh, actually, I must be a really bad screener because I really hate this question sometimes because it's like, what are the top three that you should read? And I think that screenwriters should just read everything. They should just read everything they can get their hands on. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. They need to read everything. But if I were to give some recommendations, I would say that in order to learn craft, I would read Harlan Ellison's original Star Trek episode, his version of this episode, Sitting on the Edge of Forever, and then I would read the rewrite that was written by the staff of Star Trek, from Gene Roddenberry down to DC Fontana, who did the final rewrite, which is the version you see on television, or the version that aired on television, and the version that Harlan Ellison very much hates. Uh, or hated before he died, right? But it's very interesting if you're, especially if you want to be a television writer. Now, the style of writing is different than the way it is now in terms of screenwriting format, but what it teaches you is how a writer will submit a script and how it gets channeled through the system, the process of television, and becomes this actual thing on TV. So kind of you can get the sense of, oh, here's the original idea, here's the original script, and then here's the rewrite that has these elements. It's a very interesting tool to train you to be prepared, because television is not, your what you write in the first draft may not end up even one iota in the final aired product, even though it might have your name on the script. So it's just a good way to kind of show you what that process is, and get yourself familiar with that. Other things that I think that I would recommend screenwriters read in order to learn more about craft is Ryan Johnson's Brick. That This is his first movie, and it's basically Raymond Chandler set in a Orange County high school. So rich kids and poor kids and all this sort of stuff intermingle. Uh, and he wrote a novella first. Instead of a treatment or an outline, he wrote a novella. And he turned that novella into a script. And you can find, I think it's still on his website, unless his website has changed. But he used to have it on his website where he had the short novella, and then he also had the screenplay. And it's a fantastic movie. If you're into noir, I highly recommend it. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in it, and he's fantastic as the detective character, who is trying to solve the crime that occurs in the thing. And that's another thing that teaches you, like, oh, here's how this prose thing was adapted into this movie. Um, some other stuff I recommend, if you really want to work in television, read a lot of pilots. Read tons of pilots, whether they were made or not. I think going back and reading the original Severance pilot is very interesting to see how, once again, how ideas get transformed in the process of television that make it on air. Because if you read the original pilot episode, it is so much different, not by much, but it is drastically, the lens of who we meet first is completely different than what's in the aired version. So it is one of those things where I really recommend that if you want to write for TV, you read a lot of TV pilots. There's a website, TV writing website that has all these. It's like sites.google.com /site /TV writing that kind of like my Raymond Holt uh, listing of the website. But that site is actually amazing because they publish a lot of pilots for every season, and you can see what gets made, what doesn't get made, and you can see how it's changed from when it got made. So I would really recommend that TV writers read a lot of pilots. And then the last script that I will recommend, that I think is very fascinating, especially if you write sci-fi, is to read Outland by Peter Hyams, and which is also the director of the film. And it is very fascinating in a lot of the stuff that he was doing in that script in the early 80s that not even Star Trek Next Generation did. He had gay characters in the background. He had gay sex workers, both male, female, in this like Western, futuristic Western town. And it took almost 50 years for Star Trek to even have the first gay character on the show. So it's very interesting to see what he was doing in that script, science fiction wise, to try to sort of push the genre forward at a time when science fiction became a little more conservative in the 80s in terms of genre, in terms of film and TV. So those are my recommendations. So See Alienated Forever. You can find a book, Harlan Ellison. You can find both that version and you can find DC Fontana's version if you just Google search Ryan Johnson's Brick, read the Severance pilot, read Outland, and then read every other pilot. Read bad stuff. Read bad scripts. Bad scripts teach you everything you need to know about making a good script because you can read it and you'll be like, this doesn't make sense. There's no setup here. There's no payoff here. What's this? And it's never, it'll teach you a great deal. And also, just read your peers, read other screenwriters you admire, or read your friends who are writing screenplays. You can teach each other. Just read everything you can get and get notes. Oh, get notes on your stuff too, because that'll help you.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Like read bad screenplays. Yes, a lot of times, I always like think, okay, I have to read like great screenplays. Yes, of course, but sometimes, like you said, you learn
Yeah.
from the bad ones too.
Right. Yeah, there's a Alan Moore who's a comic book writer who wrote the V for Vendetta, Watchmen, all these things that got adapted to film, which he completely hates. He hates anything that his work has been adapted to. He doesn't even when he gets the paycheck, he donates it to some charity. He doesn't even take the money. Um, but he says like read bad stuff, watch bad movies. That's how you become a better writer. Bad art will teach you a lot about making good art.
All right. Question number two. What is something a screenwriter will never learn in a book?
Well, I'm not much of a screenwriting book guy. In fact, I only have two on my. I only keep two books on screenwriting here. I have a whole bunch, but these are my bibles, which is Becoming a Writer and Staying a Writer by J. Michael Straczynski, and then also the Complete Book of Screenwriting by J. Michael Straczynski. This one's a little out of date, but this is good for just learning basic format. This is really good to make it into the business of being a writer. Like if you want to become a writer and get paid for it, and how you can, as people who are professional writers, can stay in the game. And it teaches you a lot about notes. It teaches you about this. It teaches you all sorts of stuff that screenwriters don't get in screenwriting books. The screenwriting books, I find, they don't teach you just the format. They teach you a particular formula of screenwriting. They teach you how to plug A plus B plus C to equal, whatever. And it becomes very route. It's like the hero's journey. You got to go here, you got to go here, you got to go here, or the story circle, whichever you want to call it, or the triangle of sadness, or whatever format you want, or save the cat. It teaches you how to do things by route, as opposed to you bringing whatever it is to yourself into the work. And I know there's three act structures. There's very basic structures that you have to know, but beyond that, you can learn screenwriting and the format and all that. You can probably learn that in a few days, get a few, books, but, whatever, read a few scripts. But if you really want to know how to actually be a writer, how to become a writer, how to live the life and existence of a writer, this book helped me a great deal. Um, it's things that they don't teach you. You can learn format. Software gives you the format already, right? But you've got to learn. You got to learn how to navigate as well as a writer, and those are things that a screenplay book won't teach you. You have to learn the business. Learn the business. I took a course from Kaya Alexander, who's now a good friend of mine and mentor. Her entertainment business school. so that I could learn what the business is, so I can learn how to navigate that. These are important things that a writer must learn that are not taught in any screenwriting book. It's all about write this the way I write a screenplay. No one writes the same way. I don't write the same way as Hemingway, or I don't write the same way as Kurt Vonnegut or whoever, or Aaron Sorkin or anything like that. I only know how to write a Ryan Riddle thing. So once you have the format of a screenplay, you're fine, right? Then you just have to perfect your craft and learn how to properly set things up and pay off and this and that. That's stuff that you learn by getting notes. But the actual stuff that you really need to learn is the business of Hollywood, how it operates, what it means to have an agent, what does a contract look like, who do you need to have read that contract before you sign it, how do you get notes, how do you take notes, how do you accept notes, and how do you act on notes. These are all things that are not in a lot of screenwriting books. So those are all the things that I recommend that you have to learn the business. Learn the business first. Learn what it takes to stay in the game, because it is a marathon and it's grueling, and I haven't figured it all out myself either, like you get so close and then everything comes out underneath you. And those are things that no screenwriting book can ever teach you. How do you handle the rejection? How do you keep going when you don't have work, or how do you keep going when uh you're getting one no after another and after another and after another. Those are things that you don't learn in a book. Those are only things that you either learn from life experience, you learn from talking to other writers, or you pick up different books that are not about screenwriting format and writing how to save a cat or a dog or whatever it is. And I don't mean to disparage those books. I just never had a use for them. I think it's more valuable that writers learn everything outside of those books. Like, because what you learn in that is you can get that out of the software. But stuff like this, that's either life experience or you get it from someone someone who is a professional above you that has already gone through a lot of that stuff and getting their advice on it. Or you take the right kind of courses that will teach you about the game of Hollywood, the business of Hollywood, and that's completely not in any screenwriting book.
This brings me to something I was just thinking about the other day, where I've heard, even like like say a writer who's gotten like a work, and even that writer, I hear sometimes they still have to find the next job. So I used to think that, okay, once you get like a writing gig, you're like set for life. That's not the case, is it?
No, it is not. And I'll tell you, I've been a professional writer for 30 years, coming up on 30 years. I got my first gig as a writer while I was still in college, and I was working for a local Asian American magazine as a writer. But then I got hired to be a writer at the local news station. So I've been working since before I graduated college as a professional writer in one form or another, from journalism to marketing to screenwriting to whatever. And now I'm like any good screenwriter, I'm still looking for a stable day job so that I can continue the screenwriting when when the work is dry, right? So you just have to persevere, and this is the only profession, regardless if you're going to do screenwriting, if you're going to do marketing writing, if you're going to do technical writing, it's the only profession where you have to constantly prove yourself over and over again, no matter how much work you have behind you. It's not only, they say the joke is in Hollywood, you're only as good as your last project. It's not even that. Your last project could be the best project on earth. They're still going to want to see, can you write? Can you really write? Can you prove that you can write? Can you give us something that proves that you can write? So I pitched a magazine not too long ago, and I'm not gonna name the magazine, but I pitched a magazine, a well-known geek magazine, or geek website, and the thing is, oh, can you show us your clips? And so I sent my clips. I've got tons of clips, so I sent my clips, and the next question was, Can you write something about da 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 blah? Wait, that's what the clips are for. The clips are to prove that I can write, but you're asking me to write something for free again to prove I can write. So it is the one profession where you will constantly be like, you just have to persevere. It's hard. There are days when I'm like, I give up. I quit. Thought, F it. I'm done. I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna go, I don't know, learn carpentry or how to draw blood or something like that. Something that, I don't have to continually face rejection over and over and over and over again, right? You just have to persevere. And you know what? Don't let go of a day job. Keep your day job. I still do marketing work. I still do other things to supplement because you need to have a day job, because it is a tumultuous journey to be a writer. There's never a guarantee, and for every success there's about 10 more failures. That's just the reality of it. And I don't want to discourage anyone because that sounds very discouraging. But you can do it. Look, I've done it. I'm still here. I'm still writing. You know, even though I want to quit some days. But I don't, because it's what I love and it's what I'm good at, and I have a passion for it. But the way you survive is you persevere. Don't get rid of your day job after you get that first, like, woo, I sold something. No, keep your day job. Two, or three, you just have to keep going, and you just keep going and keep going, and you just keep writing. Just keep writing and write. You write some more, write even more. Because you never know. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. You never know what's going to stick, what's going to hit. So you have to have like a lot of things going on. So, but it is possible, and I think even as tumultuous as it is, it's worthwhile. It is. I would not have been happy had I been a doctor like my mother wanted. My mother would have been happy. My bank account would have been happy, but I wouldn't have been happy.
I love it. You hear that, screenwriters? Keep writing.
Yeah,
All
just keep writing. Keep writing. Write as much material as you can. You get better.
right. Question number 3. What is the greatest character arc you've seen in a story?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. But I prepared because I watched some episodes.
You know what? Actually, I like to catch the writers off guard, but I know you did your homework, so that's
I
fine.
did your I did my homework. Anyway, no. But this was going to be my answer regardless. So I think Michael Burnham in Star Trek Discovery in all 5 years has the best character arc ever laid out in television from beginning to end. Now, I didn't agree with it at the beginning because they put a lot of like, here's the first black female lead of Star Trek, and here's all this trauma on top of her, right? Like, oh my God, no. But it took all of that trauma and it showed us how you can grow and move on from trauma. You can integrate it into your life and find joy and happiness and have this journey from the lowest point of your life to becoming this person that literally she saves the galaxy a 100 times over, and who who grows and who gets to this point where she has traveled farther than any starship captain in Star Trek has ever traveled. She has traversed centuries, she's traversed parsecs, she's traversed galaxies, and yet at her core, it's all about her journey as a human being and a discovery of who she really is deep down. Because she starts off and she's unsure, and she's trying to emulate all the people who have influenced her, from Spock's father to her mentor, and she's trying to mold herself into one or the other, and it doesn't quite work. And then she finds who she is deep down, and there's this weight that comes off her. She's relaxed, she smiles, she's a little more open with her emotions, she makes jokes, she has fun, she loves her job. She loves her job. She loves being a starship captain, and I think that's such an amazing to go from, like, not only did it show how does someone become a captain in Star Trek, but it just shows how you can overcome all these things that have hurt you in your life and still find happiness and joy and a lover, a husband, and have a family, and it's a show that ends in complete black joy by the end. And it's a beautiful it's a beautiful show, and I hate that show gets so much crap from these old bigoted Star Trek fans. Which, if you're bigoted, you're not really a Star Trek fan, right? Like, if you just watch it, it's a beautiful story. Like they took my three favorite original series characters, Spock, Kirk, and Uhura, and put them into one person in Sonequa Martin Green's character, and and elevated it to even more, to where, like, it's like, if someone asks me who's your favorite captain in Star Trek, it's like, it's Kirk and Burnham. Those are my two favorites. And she just has such an amazing. I miss that show so much too. Like, I was like, I still feel robbed. Like, they canceled it, right? Like, I only got 2 seasons with her as the captain. I want three more. Come on. But I miss that show a great deal. I miss Sonequa Martin Green and her portrayal. She was such a spokesperson for the franchise, and I think she's the best thing to be created out of Star Trek past Gene Roddenberry's death. Like, she is the best character that has ever been created since the Next Generation cast, and I think that is the best journey in recent science fiction television history.
I have to say, I've had a lot of Star Trek, fans on the show, and you've like this is the most passionate I've ever seen someone talk about Star Trek and a character. So, wow.
Oh, well, do you have 5 hours? Because now we can talk. Let's switch to Captain Kirk, and I'll tell you a lot. Just kidding. But I think hers is the best arc, and it is certainly the template by which I hope to achieve in my own work. Uh, that I'm currently my current work in progress. And there's some
Awesome.
others. Like, I love, like, I also love Babylon 5, and I think Jeffrey Sinclair's story is a good arc. There's other things, but I think Michael Burnham that's like the pinnacle of what you could get to.
All right. All right. Now let's go back in time a little bit. Okay.
Uh-oh. That's deadly.
Question number 4. What was the first screenplay you wrote, and what was that writing process like?
Oh. Hmm. Okay, well, the first script that I ever wrote. Okay, so I didn't. So when I was when I was a kid, like in elementary school and junior high, I used to just tell stories to kids, to the other kids, my other classmates, whoever would listen. And then I started, like, putting myself and my friends in Star Trek stories and writing fan fiction and stuff like that. With me as the captain, of course, because that's what we all do as Trekkies. So, and I had a writing teacher. My English teacher saw some of the stuff I was writing. She's like, "Oh, you're a good writer. You want to do the creative writing elective next year?" And I said, "Sure." Okay, I didn't know that there was an elective for that. This was back. This is how old I am. This was back when public schools actually invested in art classes, and you could take them as an elective. So I took that, and then Mr. Roberts, yes, he he actually set the course for my life a little bit with what he did. He gave me this pamphlet. I still have it. This little pamphlet on the format of screenwriting and teleplay format. And he said, you know, you don't have to write fan fiction. You could write a Star Trek script one day. I was like, "What, me? No, no, no." And that was the first time I started considering, maybe I can do this as a career. I didn't know it was a career. I didn't know it was an option for kids from Paradise Hills in San Diego. I didn't know that was a path one could take, right? Um, but I didn't start writing my first script until high school. I dabbled in junior high with some stuff, but nothing ever really coalesced. And then I started. Then this new show came out called Babylon 5 in 1993, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting concept. It's space station. It's different than Star Trek, a little different than Star Trek, but it's kind of like Star Trek. So let me see if I can write a script for that. And so I started writing a script for it, And I had an English teacher who, ironically, was Counselor Troy's stand-in for a few years on The Next Generation before she left Hollywood, because to just go into teaching, because her acting career wasn't really coalescing the way she'd wanted it or whatever. But she was helping me through the process of writing it. Like I wrote an outline, gave me lots of notes. I wrote a draft, gave me lots of notes. I wrote it, whatever. But thankfully, that script is lost in time. I do not have the 3x5 disc that it was on. I don't have a physical copy of it. Thank God, because it was a really bad script. It's really bad. I'm really embarrassed by it because it was basically a Deep Space Nine script disguised as the Babylon 5 script, because it was like the station blows up in the beginning and the teaser, and then now they have to go back in time and make sure it doesn't blow up again and all that stuff. And I'm like, that's not what Babylon 5 was like. But it's what Deep Space Nine was sort of like. So it's like I still couldn't get the Star Trek out of me when I was writing it. So I'm glad that it is lost in time to never be seen by anyone except my memory.
Where did you learn from it? As far as like, did you learn like formatting and
I
or
well, I learned. What I learned mostly is that you can't. Not every science fiction script works as a Star Trek story. Not every, not every, not everything can be written in the same way that Star Trek is written. That's what I learned, right? Because it's very easy, because that is the zeitgeist of our science fiction, right? Americana science fiction, right? Star Trek, right? The captain, the this, the that, the Spock, all that stuff. So it's kind of hard to break that, right? When you're writing something new or different, because your impulse is to insert that in there, right? Uh, and almost by instinct, not by choice. And so what I learned from that is that I learned how to be more of a chameleon in writing for television, right? I mean, I didn't know how to apply it back then, but now I do. Like if I look back and I said, what did I learn from that? I learned how to be chameleon, because when you write on TV, you're not writing you completely. You can bring you to the script, you can bring your experiences and stuff like that, but you're still really trying to emulate what the character voices are and the showrunner's voice. So in that, I knew I failed, because in that script felt nothing like a Babylon 5 script. It felt like a Deep Space Nine script, completely different show, right? So I failed in that mission to write a script for that particular show. Um, and so, because that's the job when you're a TV writer, is it's not so much you're writing your show, you're writing someone else's show, and you have to emulate that voice of the show and that voice of the characters. And it's so easy to get it wrong as it is to get it right.
yeah, that is true. That's one thing that I've read about, I learned about as a TV writer. When you're coming on as a team, like you have to like, I mean, like write like within that show's voice and not
Right.
your own. That's a good tip. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I had someone told me once, it's like, yeah, someone told me once, it's not, I'm not writing my show, I'm writing so and so's show. And that's how that got ingrained in my head. It's like, oh, okay, it's not my show, so I can't write, this the way I would write the show, right? I have to write it like the showrunner's show.
We've arrived at question number 5, the final question. All right.
Oh.
You get to plan and go on a non-romantic date
Oh,
slash.
okay, non-romantic. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I have to like. I think the first few episodes of the show, I had to clarify that it wasn't. It wasn't a romantic date because like. uh, okay, you get to plan and go on a non-romantic date slash hang out with your current main character. What does that like? What does that date look like?
Trouble. It looks like trouble. Lots of trouble. My original answer, and this is only going to be for play, but I mean, I think it's kind of, we'd either probably have really hot sex or we'd kill each other. Uh, but this is a
Non-romantic.
non-romantic date. So, my character, my current work in progress is a character called Tomas R. Cruz. Um, and he is very much the idealized version of me, or as my friend described him, the non-colonial version of Captain Kirk. I think that if we had a hangout together, we'd get in lots of trouble. There'd be like we'd go to like a lot of we'd go a lot to a lot of bars. We'd drink. We'd hit on a lot of people together. We'd end up at the after hours together. We just get into massive trouble. Or if we were, getting involved in some, shenanigans, we'd probably uproot a government or, something of that nature together. So we would just get into a lot of trouble,
A lot of
both
trouble.
probably legal trouble as well. Maybe a bar fight or two. I don't know. It just depends how the evening goes.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, well, yeah. I try to be. I think the character is very much a little impulsive, like I am, and thinks a lot with the gut, and and sometimes it's a little too go with the flow. So I think like if I'm paired with someone like that, it's just going to become a wild, unending night of fun and trouble and someone's going to get punched maybe or someone's going to end up throwing up, one of the two, and I don't know where it'll go, but knowing my shenanigans in the Castro in San Francisco, it's going to get really, 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 really fun.
All right, all right. This has been five questions with screenwriter Ryan Thomas Riddle. Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick.
Of course. And so now, I do want to ask you: are you writing anything at the moment that you could actually talk about?
Yeah. Me and my writing partner Hannibal Taboo, we have a bunch of projects that we're working on. One is False Flag, which is his creation. And we are in the midst of planning a second season of that of stories. We're currently adapting some of the stories into audio, which is on the It's Complicated YouTube channel, and it's complicated with a K. Um, and also, we're also working on some adaptations of his RPG universe called The Sundering. So those are projects that I can talk about. We have some other stuff that we can hopefully talk about very, very soon in the feature space, but right now I cannot. But as terms of what I'm working on personally, I am working on a new exciting science fiction universe, which is which the pitch is: what if Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock were actually lovers and had to compete to command the USS Enterprise, right? So it's two characters, one is an alien, one is a human. They're former lovers, and now they have to compete to command the first deep space exploration cruiser that's going to go far off into deep space. And it's called Distant Worlds, and I'm working on it now. I'm still kind of in the genesis of creation. This is the most world building I've ever done on a project because this is an all encompassing universe that can be books, TV, games, whatever. It's just this very expansive franchise universe that I'm building, which is exciting. I don't think of it as a franchise. I just think of it as like, this is a cool story I want to tell. I want to tell a queer romance in a science fiction setting. To me, this is Ulysses and Penelope, as if Penelope had to go get a ship and go after Ulysses, who's gone and disappeared, which is another aspect of this story down the road. Um, but at its heart, it's a love story between an alien and a human, uh, and how they can find love in the most impossible of places, which is deep space. Um, and this is probably going to be, I consider this my life's work. I think this is my magnum opus, my contribution to the world. There is not a whole lot of queer upfront in science fiction, or at least certain space adventure, especially in media science fiction. We're usually relegated to the background in terms of queer stories, and I want to put that up front. And I have Annabelle to thank for pushing me for that. He challenged me to write my perfect world, what the world I want to see is, and then my friend Drew Hubbard across the pond encouraged me to write a queer Trek. He goes, "Why don't you write a queer Trek?" And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. I should. And it's not Star Trek by any means, but it is one of its supersedent influences, of course, because I believe that all art is in conversation with the art that came before it. Um, but it is an entirely new universe, and it is very much a mix of queer futurism as much as it is Filipino futurism, because there's a lot of pre-colonial indigenous Filipino concepts that I have baked into the fabric of the universe, in terms of like the stellar government that they operate under, to the main character Tomas R. Cruz, who is Filipino, and to the alien race, that the alien is from Zan, the Palaka. That is a Tagalog word for frog, amphibian, because it's an amphibian race. So I baked in all these Filipino-ness things into it, uh, and I wanted to really write something that said, "Hey, the world's shit right now. We're going through a lot, but this is the future we can have. This is the roadmap. This is where we're going to go." And I wanted to write that story. Um, and as much as I've made loud and clear my intention to one day want to staff or write on Star Trek, with the contraction of TV and everything like that, that's looking very slim now. And honestly, I want to be my own Gene Roddenberry. I want to be my own universe creator. I want to create something that I can put out in the world that is wholly me. And this is what this project is. Um, and it has been my focus for several months, and it will continue to be my focus from now till until they plant me underneath a tree or something, uh, but and then if you want to follow along the progress, I have a newsletter, distantworlds.ghost.io. I think that's the URL. I don't know, but I have a newsletter that where I'm not only discussing the things that I'm thinking of that are going into this universe, but I also talk about my thoughts on Star Trek, my thoughts on this, thoughts on that, but also I kind of show how I'm creating this new universe at the same time. And I'll eventually there'll be short stories and other things on there as well. But I don't know where it's going to go yet. It can be a TV show, it can be a movie, it can be a book. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm very excited by it. I think it's something that I need to get through what's happening today in the world, and think it's what other people need too, especially queer folks. And they need to have some sort of thing that has joy and that we survive into the future and that we are able to marry. Because it's not just a queer love story. There's a sapphic romance in it. There's trans characters. The future is very queer in my universe, and very accepting.
I love that. Um, I'll make sure to put everything you just mentioned in the descriptions. Also, what's a recent film or TV show that you've watched you would recommend to our viewers?
Yes, yes. I will. Okay. Speaking of science fiction and noir, since my brand is Martians and Mayhem, science fiction and noir, I have some recommendations in those categories. Murderbot. Watch Murderbot. Oh my God. This is the funniest effing thing in science fiction I have seen in a long time. John Cho plays a starship captain in a soap opera in universe that the main character is obsessed with, and I'm like, that is such genius that in the future stuff like Star Trek would become soap opera to them. It is hands down hilarious. Another one is, and it's on HBO Max. Yeah, they're called HBO Max again. HBO Max. Uh, I don't know. They keep changing their name.
No.
I'm just waiting to call them the streaming service previously known as HBO Max. You know, just to go total Prince or something. But Mickey 17 is hilarious. It's based on a book. But it takes what Moon was doing and it just takes it to a left field. And my sides hurt so much watching. It's there's some serious stuff in it, But there's also some really hilarious stuff in it, and it just like my sides were hurting by the time I finished that movie. And then in terms of noir, while it is still on HBO Max, I recommend the Perry Mason show. That, but it's an excellent. It is more. It is unlike the old Raymond Burr TV show, and it's more like the noir books that Perry Mason comes from. Because Perry Mason was a noir character, and then they did the TV show, and he's more. He's not really as. It's not really noir. It's more courtroom drama. Um, but I really highly recommend that one. And then Nova King on Paramount Plus, starring Jack Quaid, another Star Trek connection. He was on Lower Decks, but that's another hilarious movie. It's a guy who cannot feel pain at all, and then there's a bank robbery, and then they take the teller that he's kind of has a romantic thing in, and it's just there's a lot of like it's just hilarious. I can't tell any more than that because if I did, it would spoil the entire movie, and I don't want to do that. But those are my top recommendations of things I've watched recently.
All right. I love it. I love it. I do have the streaming service formerly known as Max or HBO Max.
Yeah, whatever it's called today, whatever they
By the
decided
time
today.
by the time this airs, they might change the name. So who knows?
Yeah, who
Uh,
knows? It might be just M. Call it M.
all right. Thank you so much for sharing, all your insights with our viewers.
Thank you for having me. This was great fun, and I appreciate you letting me just babble on about screenwriting and Star Trek.